Movie begins with action. Very important to me.
I think the main thing I remember from shooting the scene was that we had like 2 or 3 PAs who were totally untrained holding some kind of bizarre, like after the marathon, aluminum...
Reflecting blanket.
Yeah, it was like a running coat. It was like a jogging jacket.
Yes, the production slides of this sequence of Lynn sitting on the hood are very funny because of all the PAs that are right past Lynn in the frame.
And they're holding this thing. So we didn't have like a legit reflector board. We were just using this big giant piece of aluminum to shine some light back in her face.
Which is how you shot all of this. Nothing was really totally legit, yet it looked absolutely beautiful.
Right. Well, at the time that we did this film, I think I had 3 lights, and we had rented this really nice Aton XTR prod camera with a Canon 8-64 zoom lens, in case anybody wants to know.
That's Ike McFadden playing Hank, the ex-boyfriend. And you'll see him again in the feature film playing a spy. He also co-produced a feature.
And for me, Ike made shooting this short totally worthwhile because he's a funny guy.
He's a very funny guy. That's Lynn Evans, who plays Watson, and Lynn was involved with this from the very beginning when I first wrote the script and I had stage readings. She was Watson from that point, and she did a great job in this short and has many fans.
And one thing that I loved about Lynn was that she had these incredible eyes.
She's great eyes.
She was funny too, but she had good eyes. This is a portrait shot.
This is a portrait shot. This is Wendy Brockman.
This is like portrait photography for me. It's like setting it up just to make somebody look good because they're not going to be moving around much. But then we have this guy in the background. So with 3 lights, you have like just a few ways to like make the scene work.
Yes. Those are clothes that I bought at Bendel's and then returned as soon as we wrapped. There, see? And you know, I remember good art direction. Art direction was done by Aaron Michaud and Jeff Hamill.
Right.
Beautiful Volvo pictures everywhere. Louis's big thing was always like the best, like the cheapest into like a beautiful composed shot is like a nice looking lamp in the background. So we have colored lamps everywhere.
Right. Backlighting is good. Actually, that doesn't really constitute backlighting, but it's a type of backlighting. I was just going to say, I'm trying to figure out what makes the 35mm film look so amazing, and why do I look at this and think there's something missing, and I think possibly just 35mm is just always really great. It just has a totally different kind of look, but I do like the colors in this film. I think they're kind of decent. I love the colors in
this film. I love the look of this film, and
I'm trying to think about what constitutes the difference in like the compositional style and the lighting style between this and the feature. I feel like there's more, like here her face is in shadow. In the feature, it's possible that her face would have a light on it.
Well, I don't know if you can compare the two. I think you and I had a very specific plan in how we approach this, and I would just like to say this is one of my favorite scenes, well, in the original script, and it's not in the feature. This is only in the short, and I love, this is beautiful. Like, she's backlit. She looks so gorgeous.
Well, see, I think that when you shoot with natural light, and a lot of people don't do this, you get a more raw look, but it's also a slightly more, like, honest look, and that comes through in the rawness of it. This is just sunlight and nothing else. We might have a little bit of a bounce car, but what you do is you just expose for the inner shadow part of the eye, and you let everything else kind of blow out. I mean, I think this has been color corrected a little bit so it doesn't look so blown out behind her. But
did we do any? She's wearing my butterfly ring, which I still wear pretty much every day except for today. But I love that scene. And there's Wendy again.
So how did this function for you? You had all these characters. They were it was almost like what you would call an elaborate reading of the script.
This short?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it wasn't a short in the sense that it told like a complete story in a normal sense of like how shorts tell stories. It did have a little bit of a story, but it was almost like an elaborate reading of your movie, like with visuals and everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because when you think of a short, you think of like a movie that's like 2 or 3 minutes long. It's got a story. It's like all like centered upon like one idea. These were like samplings from your screenplay, right?
Yes. Well, we had to pick the stuff that we thought we could shoot on basically about $10,000. We made the short. The short cost $12,000, but $2,000 of that I had on a credit card for years. That was for DuArt's processing.
Well, see, I find that to be absolutely terrifying because I shot a feature for $12,000.
Well, I don't know.
But see, I don't understand, like, where'd the money go? It's just like, well, the camera costs, we had to pay insurance. That was $500 to rent an Aton camera with a good Canon lens on it. And then renting the actual camera itself probably cost, like, what, $800 for the weekend.
I don't know. Some of it went to equipment. Some of it went to the crew. You were paid a lot of money.
I was not.
By the way, I just like to note again that scene that already passed, Watson with the sponge by the car. I think that's another really beautiful scene.
It was very beautiful, and it was kind of sexy in a way, but it was just kind of funny, and I liked her way of doing things.
Love this scene. Always have loved how this scene looks. And I recently made a scrapbook of my whole process of turning 101 Ways into a movie, from the very, very beginning of writing the screenplay to the feature being shown on Showtime. And those little tabs in the file cabinets are all little inside jokes.
Which
and
we
those
can't
are all
see.
in my scrapbook.
That's cool. You have those, but how did that scene turn out in the feature? Is there black filing cabinets? Is she in front of
it's
them?
a little more. She's like she's in a small office, and there isn't anything that bold behind her. It's just a very different look. That was Maya Rossi's Duran Duran t-shirt that she somehow disappeared after this short, never to be found again. Those are also Maya's socks, which apparently were still wet.
I love the composition here, but I find there to be a slight technical glitch here. I feel like this scene is like half a stop underexposed, and I was just at this time learning how to shoot in a dark environment, but to kind of like still have enough light. And I think I would do it differently now, but I feel like it was just a little grainy. The film's kind of like searching for its resolution or whatever that it doesn't have in those scenes where she's in front of the mirror like that.
Right. This is James Walsh playing Kurt, who later will play Mason, the other waiter at the Tarnished Barge in the feature. By the way, all of this movie, almost everything was shot at the house I was living in at Coram Street in Hamden, where my beloved landlords Mimi Winton and Hugh Sutherland were gracious enough to let us tromp around for about a week. That's my office.
It looks nice and comfortable here, but I remember it being extremely hot. It was summertime. We were all sweating, and Tammy and her boom operator were both wearing like hoodies, and like they were dressed in like wool hoodies, and I was like, "What's wrong with you people?"
No, it's very true. The other thing I've realized watching in this whole phone sex sequence, where a lot of it takes place in what was my bedroom, is I think it's so embarrassing that I actually had my bedroom painted sponge peach, like it was sponge painting, and it was peach.
But that's cool.
One or the other you could maybe accept, but the two together.
Wait, what's the two? The sponge and the peach?
It's sponge painting.
But see, I find that, I mean, to me, anything other than white walls is always really great.
Yes.
Unless you're going to do like Woody Allen and Stardust Memories where the whole scene is white, you know? So like color is good. I actually like the color in this film. I think it's kind of cool.
No, I think the color is very crisp.
Part of that is just, I think we were shooting Kodak film, which always has amazing color.
I still have a roll of film left over from
Really?
the shoot. Yeah, I almost brought it for you today. That green lamp in the background is on my fireplace in Brooklyn now. That was Maya's lamp. She hates that lamp.
And that telephone?
We were just watching the short, and Maya was making fun of the phone, saying, that is the largest cordless phone. There's Hank eating beans out of a can. There's my beautiful kitchen from Coram Street.
So like all the shots are totally locked down. They're all kind of like still photos.
Right, we kept it very simple. This was our big conceptual thing, starting with Watson looking out the window. The cutaway to what she was looking at was my landlord's, and we ended up not using it because it just didn't work.
But I think that this moment has a slightly lyrical quality to it visually because you go from her looking out the window and the shot after that is her in the mirror. So you don't really get an immediate there. Now there's a direct shot of
we're
her
not
body.
sure where she is.
But I feel like in this scene, like just in terms of having a character moving through space, I don't mind this. Like I could easily put this scene on my reel now and feel totally good about it because it feels like you're not just seeing it in a very blockish kind of way, you know?
Yeah, well, I think that comes back to Lynn, and so I think that one of the reasons this short works so well is that the shots are very specific. They're nicely art directed. They're colorful, and Lynn has so much personality. So I think if you have good acting going on within a nicely composed shot, that's all you need half the time.
Yeah, well, Lynn's very kind of quirky and charming, but like real smart. She seems super smart to me.
Yeah. See, by the way, when we cut back to her, you can see the orange sponge painting. I love the wide load calendar. There's the other. This is quintessential Louis Leray, is that red door.
Yeah. Well,
Remember how you were like, this is where we must do some of the testimonials in front of the red door.
Well, I think I just responded to the red door because of Antonioni's film The Passenger, which has all these old, faded, kind of dilapidated doors in the background when Jack Nicholson's walking around in Africa.
This was in my dining room, which was pretty much just an empty room, unused, in this huge Connecticut apartment I had. And those were Louis's just blankets, I think, thrown over C-stands, right?
Yeah, there were some painting cloths. I have to also say, concerning the red door, well, we'll see it later again.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost the plant. There was a plant there.
You mean...
in front of him
That's
before?
Maya's goat gut lamp. There's another lamp in the background. I wouldn't have remembered that if I hadn't just watched this with Maya. I'd like to also say, I think Lynn looks really sexy in this black lace in this scene.
Yeah, this is cool.
And there's a huge, giant Volvo grill behind her, which was donated from Connecticut's own Volvo, the Volvo dealership in Westport, which just sort of gave me all these props for this short. They were so helpful. And then later for the feature, they are the ones who loaned us a car that became Watson's car.
Right, when we see the beautiful Volvo, whose car is that?
In this movie, it's my Volvo.
Right.
And I have to say, my Volvo looks so sweet in this film. It's so young and dent-free. There's Amy Gershman, a little cameo by Amy, who worked at Best Video, in her S&M gear, or goth gear, I should say, not to make
I
it
have
sound
to
like
say that some of these compositions, looking at them, they're a little off, and I think it's because I have the person kind of centered in what would end up being a blow-up zone. Like if this were to get blown up to 35, then the composition would make slightly more sense. But I never really pushed it. Like most people that I shoot with, I always leave a little extra around. If I'm shooting for myself, I'll use like this exact aspect ratio, and my compositions tend to be slightly more intensified because of it. Whereas here, there's just a little bit of space around people above and below.
You think they have too much headroom, you're saying?
No, well, she has a little headroom. Like if I was, and he does too, but he doesn't have any chin room. And I think if I was composing it, I would fix it so there wasn't any room above or below, or that there was more room or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, I was going to also say I was influenced by Antonioni's Red Desert. So I love images where you have like very intense colors and stuff.
Yeah.
This is sexy. He's got his knees up. She's got her knees up.
You mean Ike and her?
Yeah, just the way she looks is
That's
kind
true.
of sexy in a way. I mean, your film is about sex, isn't it?
Sex definitely comes into it. Also, there's a lot of sequences in this short which...
She's got her knee up too. I didn't even realize all these characters have their knees up.
Wendy Brockman is the mother. So funny with that mask on. But there's a lot of... I was so happy with how this short came out that I really tried to imitate it in the feature. So there's a lot of scenes that...
Well, what about the short do you
composed the
like?
same way.
This is Nathan. He's got his own coffee shop now in New Haven.
You know, he came into Best Video recently, and Maya was like, Nathan, we shot a commercial with Louis Leray, and, remember 101 Ways? And he was like, I don't know you. I don't know who you are. What are you talking about? This just happened a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He had no memory
Right.
of shooting this stuff.
Yeah.
Have you seen him and he remembers you?
Yeah, he remembered me. I went to Elm City, Java.
I don't know how he couldn't remember. He and Maya and I used to always talk at Best Video.
I think that wall is exposed okay. I think the curtains are backlit.
She's a little dark.
There's something wrong with the flesh tones here. I think they're like half a stop low.
See, that's what you watch this and you see exposure issues. I watch this.
It's a beautiful image, though.
It is a beautiful image. And she, first of all, Lynn looks just so amazing all the time. But she looked really good in that little sexy outfit. And I believe she's wearing fishnets. But she has amazing legs.
And she's got a great voice.
Yeah, she did a lot with this scene with her voice. It was very funny. And
is that a tag on a piece of clothing?
Yeah, because she sort of has just bought that. That's sort of a little joke. And she uses it later when she's telling... No, I think she's describing what she's wearing right now. And she can't remember what this little jacket is. That jacket I bought at Bloomingdale's and then returned that later.
I think that when you discover that your interactions with people are really based upon like the amount of information that they have about you, like she's assuming that this guy kind of knows her or can see her.
Yes.
And it dawns on her that he can't.
Right, which she really plays off very well.
But see, part of that is a type of metaphor for her relationships in general. Like she thinks people will know her, that she's going to connect with them, but she doesn't. She's like a person who's completely alienated from most of the people she connects with, right? Isn't she a person who's searching for love in some way? Like, isn't that one of her main problems or arcs or whatever?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't want it to be about Watson searching for love, though. That's sort of what comes across. The feature kind of ends up being more of a romantic comedy than I had planned. But she's definitely, I think she's searching to be comfortable with who she is and where she is in life, in this more isolated place in Connecticut.
Right. Well, what does the Volvo stand for then? What is it? It's her permanent full-time boyfriend, or like?
Yeah, it's sort of her companion. It's her kind of her comfort zone.
Do you feel
I
like
think
this
it
is kind
also
of
makes
a?
her feel confident. There's Brian
Right.
Quirk as Ian. I also have to say I loved that we shot in the New Haven Union Station tunnel. That was, I thought, a real coup.
I think this is my favorite scene. One,
Really?
it's moving. Two, I love the light. Three, we
With
shot it
Freddie
with
March.
one light on an extension cord, walking and handheld.
Yeah, no, that was fun.
Four, that guy was totally hilarious, and I totally
Brian
loved
was
hanging
great,
out with
and
him.
I love just. We had this concept, that when Ian came to visit Watson in Connecticut, it was to him his trip to the country, so that he would actually carry a giant inner tube on the Metro North train. I just love that idea, and wear a straw hat.
It's a great costume for him. Like, see,
That's
I could
very
see,
funny.
to me, that costume is even fully actualized
there's
enough for a feature.
Brendan in the background, Brendan O'Sullivan, who I think was also just one of our PAs on the shoot. But said that.
I just think his costume is great.
No, it's very funny.
It's a costume that could easily translate into a feature film. There's something very actualized about his look.
Yeah.
Did he make it into the feature?
No.
Brian Quirk?
Which actually, that's a good point. Lewis has brought up a good point, which is that there are a lot of people that were very involved in helping this film, the screenplay, get developed who did not make it into the feature. A few people did, from some of the actors to crew, but most people didn't.
Including me.
Including Lewis, and
Which was a funny irony, because I was in Santa Fe reading the script, getting ready to shoot it, when I got a call from Jennifer saying, "No, you're not going to be working on this."
That's true, but it was not my choice.
But that was fine.
Well, we're still friends. Here we are doing commentary. The beautiful thing is that a lot of the people who weren't able to make it to the feature, including Lynn as Watson and Lewis as the DP, which were, to me, the really essential people, were able to wish me well and sort of not hold grudges, which was very generous, considering how many people kind of did get screwed out of the opportunity to work on the feature.
I would never hold a grudge. I would actually be totally the opposite of that and just say, looking at the feature and seeing how amazing it looked just from a cinematography point of view. I mean, the lighting and the balancing of the lights and the colors and the aspect ratio. Not the aspect ratio, but the lighting ratio between the ambient light and the light on the people's faces. All of that was beautifully done. So whoever lit the film, the feature, did a totally great job.
Yeah, well, Jeff Epplett was the DP on the feature, and his key gaffer was Dave Cambria, if I'm remembering the name right. But there was a very large grip and electric crew, and they worked really well together. But, what I think is incredible about the short is that, and this was how Lewis worked at the time. Lewis was like this one. Lewis could light, a whole set by himself, but he could, he sort of had some key PAs that he would actually let maybe hold a light or do some setup, but you pretty much did everything by yourself, and you did it with so little.
Yeah.
And you can still shoot like that. Like, I think that is an amazing background to come from.
Yeah, well, I've tried to outgrow that completely, but I have done that on other films as well.
Right.
And it's, setting up lights, loading the mags, operating the camera, doing the light metering, all that kind of stuff. If I do all that on a set, yeah, I stay really busy, but it's also kind of fun.
And on Lewis's feature, his own feature that he directed, he shot it, he edited it, he produced it.
Well, I was basically a one-man crew on Mitchell Bard's film as well.
So,
yeah, no, being the one-man crew is fine. The only problem with it is
many
that...
problems with it.
Yeah, there's many problems with it.
But I can't wait to work with Lewis again and on a bigger scale.
The question that I keep asking is, what is it that I can bring to a film that's different from like what you ended up with in the feature? It's kind of like, are the compositions different? Is there more of a dynamic quality to it? It's just like, what's the point? Like, why would somebody hire me over the other guy? What's the reason for doing that?
Well, I would hire you just based on how I enjoy working with you. With this short, I felt like I had a really pure, collaborative, creative process.
Okay.
And I think that's a really rare thing.
Right, okay.
So, I think I trust in that partnership, so
Right.
I think anything could turn out great based on that kind of collaboration.
I think that's really great, and that kind of brings up a certain kind of like value system in filmmaking and in work in general, but sometimes I tend to think, okay, at the very end, it's an image on a screen. And how it got there doesn't matter. You want the best possible image you can get.
Well, yes, but you were really good at helping me be specific about what I wanted. I remember this. Remember we were losing light with this scene, which is, I'm sure, what every director and DP says when they're watching movies with natural light is, oh, remember how we were losing light?
Yeah, but the fact that we were shooting this with natural light is, I mean, I like the shot. There's something slightly muddy about it, but I love the fact that there is a depth into the background, and that back window is open, and your house was very beautiful. And
and that Inca red dining room that was always empty
for
most of the time I lived in this apartment. But that was very pretty light coming through the lace curtains.
See, the problem is when you shoot a film entirely on a tripod, you have to really worry, except the train scene, you have to really worry about it being flat. And so basically all I'm thinking about the entire time I'm working and doing the different things on the set is how to keep this from looking flat.
Right.
And there's different ways of doing that, but you just, like, this is an essentially flat scene, so you go with the flatness. You create an extra type of flatness on top of that.
Now, is that flat to you?
No, because her body is isolated from the background by using a longer lens with a short depth of field, so it's less flat.
See, I don't even know if I was involved in those decisions.
And also, the light is coming from behind her rather than in front of her. I always try to, in order to avoid flatness, I try to shoot into the light rather than have the light hit the person's face, and that helps to relieve the feeling of flatness.
Right. Remember, I think we did all this stuff out on the porch, unless this was a different, really early in the morning. It was actually quite cold.
No, it's on the porch. And I think this was one of the earlier scenes, because I remember I thought that there was a glare or a flare. It turned out that the mirror inside the Aton, the mirror that spins around in the shutter, had a smudge on it. And so whenever I looked into the lens, I saw this bizarre kind of light refraction going on. And I called the dealer and I said there's a problem. And it was just a dirty mirror inside the camera. That was freaking me out.
No, this is Joe Longobardo playing Officer Russatelli. I actually think
Did he make it into your movie?
No, he didn't. He auditioned for the young cop, and that ended up we ended up going with Kim Marino.
This is a very hard scene.
I love Joe as this cop, and I like how this
This is incredibly complicated. That's a very difficult shot.
And I remember you were really cranked up on the tripod.
To show a person like that at these two varying angles without it looking absurd or weird is really hard, but I love the look of her. In fact, I picked that one image. I put that image on my little reel that I made of this film.
Well, remember, we were trying to have her look like a little girl there. She was like this little girl that got in trouble or sort of did something kind of silly.
Well, on the other films that I've seen people working on, the big budget Hollywood films, they walk around with their director's viewfinder and they'll spend 20 minutes with like 4 top professional filmmakers trying to make those angles work. I've seen them do that.
Right.
And it looks real easy, a guy talking to somebody. It's not easy to make it look right. It can look absurd. Here's something where we just kind of took a very dead-on kind of look. So it's like
with these back and forths.
And her eyes just look, she could get a job in a vampire movie with this.
She has very clear
and there's something kind of vampire-y about those eyes. Look pretty amazing.
But even that cop scene, like I remember, I was so happy with that back and forth between them. Again, I tried to create that in the feature film. It's not the same effect. It was a little more subtle how the feature film was done. Here's the credits. There's Louis. There's Wyatt Smith, who the producers hooked me up with Wyatt to edit this short, and the producers of my feature film kind of really came on board after seeing the footage of this short.
Right, so would you recommend to people who are trying to produce a feature to go and to invest, well, okay, you could do it on DV now, but to invest money and time and effort in making a short or a sampling of the feature film, would you say that helped a lot?
Yes, and I'm planning on doing that right now with the script Walk a Mile that I've been working on. And I just think it's good to keep a creative momentum going and to try to do something other than talking about how you wish you could get a movie made.
And how did it make you what it did for you, I imagine, is it kind of created like a very elaborate storyboard for you. Like, did it help you to kind of move into the visualization process? For the feature,
somewhat,
or did you start all over again?
Somewhat. Those are, by the way, here's a list of like everybody that donated money that's what we used to shoot this short, and everybody that helped.
Wait, I gotta say something. Yeah. Here's something I learned from Jennifer Katz. She uses everyone around her in a totally friendly and wonderful way to get things done, and that was great. And everyone I know I met through Jennifer. And I don't have any friends of my own. They're all just friends of Jennifer. But anyway,
Well,
it was
and
really
one of the
cool to
best-
see you work.
Best things about
Because you
making
got
this
stuff
short,
for free, and
yeah.
people helped out. You had good food on the set. We had like chicken marsala.
All of it was donated. Well, now we're out of image, and I would just like to say, if it weren't for making this short, I never would have met Louis. So that's one of the greatest things I got out of making this short.
Great.